Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the All Covered Protecting Your Business webinar. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Tim Coker with All Covered. I run the information security practice. I manage the internal and external security and compliance for All Covered. That's with client-facing or corporate. All Covered is a managed services provider. We are the IT services division of Konica Minolta. We were established in 1997. We're headquartered in Foster City, California. We have offices and locations in approximately 25 cities across the country. We have over 800 employees, and over half of those are certified engineers. Today we're going to talk about how we can protect your business and the challenges around protecting your business. Some of the challenges that everybody's still facing on a regular basis are constant battles with malware and spyware, and then also data loss due to either events or disasters, or sometimes related to dealing with malware, spyware, and security issues. Then one of the other big issues is not having a plan on how to deal with these events when they take place, whether it's having a malware or spyware incident, or whether it's due to a disaster that causes your company to lose data. So without these plans in place to deal with malware, spyware, other security issues, or being able to have recovery of data in an event of an issue or a disaster, you could be putting your company at risk of having revenue loss, having reputation issues, maybe being out of compliance, or even loss of innovation due to not having these precautions in place. Everybody's probably heard of the Target breach. That one's 2 months old now, happened back before Christmas. Target was breached, and it affected 40 million debit and credit cards and over 70 million customer records. Target was a large company that had all types of IT security and systems in place. Even with those systems in place, it still took almost a month for their teams to discover that there was a breach that had taken place. Since the Target breach, there's been many others that have happened. Home Depot's had a breach. Sony's had the big email breach that everyone's heard about. And one of the more recent ones was in the healthcare industry. Anthem was breached and had even more records exposed than the Target breach did. The thing we want to point out here is, even though your company may not be as large as Anthem, Target, Home Depot, or companies like that, you still could be impacted by a security breach. Gartner says that 40% of small businesses, small to medium businesses that manage their own security will have their network accessed by a hacker. And that 50% that have this happen won't even realize that it's happened, because they won't have the internal systems or ability or resources to detect that it's happened. Some of the issues that lead to this are trying to do everything with limited resources that your company may have inside. Typical IT resources have to deal with ongoing issues like end-user support, messaging and email issues, keeping the website running and dealing with website issues, keeping virus definitions, patching, things like that in place, making sure they manage the backup and recovery systems. Now they're having to also add in mobile devices and maybe even bring your own device policies within their companies. And then also ever-increasing compliance. Depending on the industry or the vertical you're in, you may now have compliance requirements that fall into there. Most small companies don't have the resources to be able to devote someone to taking a look at security in a specific way, or maybe not even having, they may have people, but they may not have the experience to deal with the security issue. How come your business might need assistance? There's a few thoughts that we can go through there. One is, in the past, having a firewall and having antivirus installed on all your computers was considered enough of protection that you didn't need to worry about anything else. Nowadays, just having a firewall and having virus protection on your computers is only one piece of the puzzle, and you can still have security breaches and security issues if you don't have other systems in place. Since the security responsibilities usually fall to an IT generalist, they usually do not have time to deal with making sure these other precautions are in place, or testing the firewall to make sure it's configured correctly, or making sure every system has updated antivirus or malware protection. And then they also just lack the time and the resources to be able to do these things, even if they do have the expertise. The areas where we still see common occurrences of security incidents are still the older style malware and virus software. We still see lots of spyware and adware. Phishing is still one of the largest ways in which viruses and malware are brought into a company. Data theft from your own internal employees. One of the newest things we see a lot of is an attack called ransomware, where they come in via a phishing email or a bad link, malicious link on a site, and they encrypt your critical data and then hold it for ransom. Password hacking is still very popular to try to determine what people's passwords are, so that then they can gain access to your systems. The bad guys are always running what we call vulnerability scanners, which are the same tools we use to determine what vulnerabilities are on a network, to help you determine what vulnerabilities are there and then remediate those vulnerabilities to prevent these issues from happening. The bad guys are running these same scanners 24/7, all day long, all night long, to find those vulnerabilities and try to take advantage of them before your teams can have a chance to patch them or remediate them. And packet sniffers is another tool out there where they're trying to get more information on passwords, account information. If they can get a packet sniffer in there, it sees the data that's going between your network and a website, or your network and an application vendor maybe. And as I mentioned, along with like data theft, is insider activity. A lot of attacks happen from employees or vendors or contractors that are inside your own company. So that you may have the outside of your company secured, but if somebody that's already on the inside of the network has the ability to get to data they shouldn't have, or see records they shouldn't, they can take that data and do things with it that you wouldn't want done. All Covered has a suite of security services. We call it our All Covered Care services that can help you protect these areas of your company on the security side. We've got a suite of messaging protection services that allow us to do email antivirus protection, whether it's inbound email or even outbound email, so that maybe someone gets a virus, brings it in on a USB stick, and this will stop it from going out through email to your vendors and customers and prospects. We also provide spam filtering on the inbound email to help lessen the chance that an end user would click on a malicious email, go to a malicious site that's in an email. We can provide email continuity, so that if you have your own internal email systems, we can provide a system that sits in front of those as it's scanning for viruses and anti-spam prevention. It can actually queue up your email, so that if your internal email servers were to go down, whether for maintenance or unplanned maintenance or planned maintenance, or some type of event happens and takes your email servers down. It allows your users to keep on working through a web interface and access their email and be able to continue to conducting business while your internal servers are down and being fixed. We offer email encryption solutions. If you're in a regulated industry, this is required in some of those industries. Maybe part of your legal team or legal policy that says you encrypt anything that has critical data in it. All Cover can provide email encryption services so that you can secure anything you're sending from your company out to your customers if that's a concern. We also have the ability to add in some extra phishing protection, another layer that helps prevent people clicking on malicious links that come in an email. So spam is getting so good nowadays that it still slips through the spam prevention systems, and this provides another layer of security so that it checks the link before the person goes to the site and verifies if it's a good link or a bad link. And it's another layer that we can put in there to help protect your network and your systems from getting attacked. Endpoint protection. We offer managed antivirus services on servers and workstations. It's monitored by our Network Operations Center 24/7. Sends alerts to that group if someone tries to uninstall or remove their virus software or turn it off. It'll alert us to those types of things. If it detects a virus, it will alert the NOC and they'll start working on troubleshooting and remediation. We also offer an additional layer on top of virus protection of managed malware protection. Malware works a little different than viruses, so when it can come in even where you have antivirus software installed, you might get malware come in around that. We offer a layer of malware protection that runs automatically in the background on your workstations and helps prevent malware from coming in. We also provide DNS filtering. This allows us to verify that websites that your users are going to, like www.google.com, are actually www.google.com and not some other link or site that's been hijacked and sending you to a fake Google page or a fake site that looks like a real one by the name in the browser. We offer that ability, and then on top of that, content filtering. Some industries regulate this now and say that you need to have content filtering. It's still a good idea, even if you aren't in a regulated industry, to have control to protect your users from where they could go. So they're not just able to go wide open anywhere on the internet. It also lets you control things like what groups of people can go to what sites. And also it gives us the ability to control things like if you don't want everybody streaming the basketball games over the next week because of March Madness and bringing your bandwidth down to where you can't run your business applications because people are watching videos and streaming live sports feeds, you can control that kind of activity with content filtering. You can get as granular as controlling it for one user or controlling it for a whole company or individual departments in a company. Patching is very important. We provide managed patch services. It's automated. It's one of the things that you should be looking at if you don't have an automatic patch system, is look at having that deployed. Helps us keep critical security patches and other items from the Microsoft services that get patched on a regular basis. This does this automatically for us. Also helps you meet compliance requirements if you're in an industry that's regulated that way. And then last of the managed services we provide on the security side are managed vulnerability scan services. This allows us to scan clients' internal or external networks for known vulnerabilities. It runs these scans on an automated monthly basis, provides you a portal where you can access the scan details, compare scans over the months that they've been run. If you're in a regulated industry, it allows you to show that you have a vulnerability management program in place and that you also have the ability to show remediation efforts. So if you're able to show that from prior scans you've improved or closed up your vulnerabilities. Go through a quick success story here. We had a client out of our Atlanta market. They were about 150 employees spread across several offices. They were trying to manage their own IT. There was no specialist in place. They were just trying to have people who knew IT do their IT. They were constantly having malicious virus infections and malware infections where they'd call us up, ask us to fix it. A few months later, they'd get infected again, and this kept getting repeated over and over on their servers and workstations. They were losing productivity and time because each time they'd call in to have one of these issues fixed, it takes several hours to accomplish, and those people were unproductive during that time. So we worked with them to deploy some of our managed services. We put in the email spam filtering and antivirus, which helped reduce the amount of phishing emails and the chances that your users would click on malicious links inside the phishing email. We set up malware prevention on top of the existing antivirus software solution they had in place to give them another layer of protection and protect them. And then we also set up our DNS filtering so that it would help them screen out bad websites that users were clicking on and going to. This reduced their recurrence of virus infections and malware issues. It also gave the employees, after a couple months of not having infections and malware issues, much more confidence in their IT systems, and it also improved their employee productivity. Here's a good example of a success story in a specific vertical. This is in the healthcare industry, where some of the requirements in healthcare now to do annual risk assessments require in order to do that properly, you need to have like a vulnerability management program in place and be able to make sure that you know what vulnerabilities are on your network and you have a system in place to remediate those vulnerabilities. This client was a small doctor's office, only had 2 offices, around 20 employees. They did not have the expertise to install a vulnerability scanner themselves and run it and understand what they were looking at if they did run it. They wanted to make sure that they had this program in place to help them meet their compliance requirements. So we worked with them to deploy our managed vulnerability scan service, set up their monthly scan. They now get reports on vulnerabilities on their network. They're able to have us or their own people remediate them if they're discovered. Then they also can show proof that they have a vulnerability management program in place, and it keeps them up to date as new vulnerabilities come out. And vulnerabilities come out on a regular basis. Everyone might have heard of stuff like Heartbleed a year ago, this time last year. And the only way you can detect things like that is by running a vulnerability scan system. This also helped the client meet their compliance requirements and stay on top of vulnerabilities that were discovered in their network. So even if you have all these security precautions in place, you can still be susceptible to data loss because of security issues or other disasters that may occur. Do you have a backup system in place? Does it back up only certain servers, or does it back up only certain pieces of data on those servers? If you were to have a security or a virus infection or a piece of ransomware maybe that encrypted all your servers or destroyed the data across multiple servers, would you be able to recover from that? Does your backup system allow you to be able to quickly recover not just a couple files, but maybe whole sets of servers or your whole site if something were to happen? Some of the areas where data loss hits us all is fires, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes. We've seen Hurricane Sandy, Ivan, and others that have hit recently over the last few years that take down systems that people weren't planning for. If you live throughout the Midwest, you have tornadoes are an issue. Data corruption, whether it's via hardware or system malfunctions or a virus or a piece of malware, or even software corruption. Somebody deploys a patch and it causes software corruption of your data. Human error, we still have people accidentally delete files, overwrite files, things like that. Power is still an issue in a lot of parts of the country where we don't have good power grid in some areas, and you still have brownouts or power surges. And then just theft. We've had plenty of customers that they've had critical data sitting on a laptop that gets stolen out of their car, or they even may accidentally leave it somewhere and it has critical data sitting on it. We've had cases where small businesses that have their servers located inside their own offices, the office has been broken into and they've taken stuff out of the server room because it wasn't physically secured. So these are all the areas where you could possibly have data loss. Mosey has a statistic that 140,000 hard drives crash in the United States every week, and that 31% of the users who have a hard drive crash like that, they lose all their files because they didn't have a valid backup, and it was all beyond their control. It was some type of disaster that they did not have the ability to prevent. So just pointing out the importance of having a good backup in place, and just how often hard drives fail. They are a physical device, and they will fail. All Covered's got a suite of backup solutions we can offer. We provide managed backup and recovery for physical servers. We have the ability to back up your system through a device on your site, and then be able to take that data and copy it off-site to a data center. We have the ability to restore that data in a localized disaster. So if you lose a server, we can actually start that server up on the backup device that's sitting at your office. Or in the event of a whole site loss, so your building burns down or gets flooded, we actually have the ability to start those servers up in the cloud at the data centers, so that you can continue doing business while your site's recovered, while a server's recovered, that type of thing. We have the same ability with virtual servers. If you've already moved on away from physical servers and maybe have a virtual infrastructure deployed, we can offer the same services and solutions there around virtual systems. Maybe you're a smaller company and you're not concerned about having to restore complete servers if something happens. You're just concerned about maybe everything that's on the public drive or the file server, or maybe it's just your QuickBooks data or some system like that that you're concerned about. We have the ability to back up those types of systems, just the files, be able to take them off-site for you, give you the ability to access them anytime you need to do a restore or recovery from them. And a lot of people forget laptops and even desktops still. If you've got maybe a branch office that doesn't have a server at it, and the connectivity out to that branch office isn't that good, so your users out there save important documents or critical customer data to the workstations out at that branch office. Those systems need to have a way to be backed up efficiently. Or you might have mobile users or remote salespeople still, they're running around with laptops everywhere, and maybe they don't get to sync up to the corporate file server on a regular basis. In those cases, we want to make sure that we have a way to back up their systems in case maybe they've got critical proposals or new customer requests, things like that, that are important, but they're not back at your corporate systems yet. So you want to be able to have a backup of those laptops. So we provide a desktop and laptop backup solution that allows you to keep those systems backed up. If you're in an industry that requires email archiving as part of a regulation, or maybe it's a corporate policy where your corporate policy is you have to keep every email for X number of years, or your legal department wants you to keep things like that for X number of years. We have the ability to do email archiving. It has 1 year, you can set it to any retention policy, so it could be 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 7 years. We have the ability to store an unlimited amount of email. It's just part of the service. We also have the ability to enable searches, so maybe you've been archiving your email and maybe you have a legal dispute, or if you're in a regulated industry, you might get asked periodically to show emails from John to Joe over a 2-year period, and you'll be able to pull that information out of these archives and show that to either legal or auditors if needed. We also offer cloud services. We can provide cloud assessments to determine if moving your systems to the cloud would provide a return on investment, or if there's systems you may have that could cause issues with moving them to the cloud. We help identify those up front before you would make a move to take your systems out of your own data centers into a cloud. We also provide the cloud hosting to go along with that, so that if you're interested in going and having maybe your systems located in someone else's data center instead of your own that you would have to maintain, we have those services available also. Here's a success story around data backup and recovery. We had a client that was using our backup for physical servers. They were in a building where the building next to them caught fire, and as it was being fought by the firefighters, the smoke and water damage ruined their offices because they were located right next to each other. So it damaged their systems to the point where their servers wouldn't function. Since they were on our backup system and had what we call business continuity to the cloud, we were able to spin up their servers in our cloud environment in a couple hours and get them back up and running so that they could continue doing business while their building was cleaned out and the fire and smoke damage was fixed up over the next couple of weeks. So even though access to their building was lost, they were still able to access their data and continue to run. They were able to work from their home or from a temporary office while they were cleaning up their current offices. This is kind of a combination one. I mentioned ransomware at the beginning. We had a customer that was what we call a break-fix customer. They did some of their own work, did not have us manage everything. But they got a ransomware file in one day that encrypted their accounting data and some of their financial systems. They had backups that they thought were running. They had put them in, and it was supposed to be doing a nightly backup. They went to go restore, because the first method to recover from a ransomware infection is to recover data from the last backup you did. They went to do that, discovered that their backups had not actually been working for several weeks, so they didn't have a current backup to recover from, and they had some critical data that they had to have in order to continue running their business. They also, one of the systems that they had individual data, accounting data on, was encrypted also. That was a laptop that one of the accounting people was using. They actually had to pay the ransom and in order to decrypt their files and recover from this. They were down for about 4 days during this whole process of trying to recover, find a valid backup file. So their billing, their timesheets, their payroll, email, all of their systems were impacted for over a 4-day period while this happened. Once we got their data restored, we worked with them to deploy first our email protection services, which allowed us to protect them and help prevent from getting an infection. Nothing will prevent it 100%, but it helps prevent it via email or via phishing. We deployed our backup for servers so that they now have a backup solution that backs up everything to a local system and takes it off-site to our data centers, and it's monitored 24/7. So we know when the backups have run and when they have not run. So if a backup fails, we respond to that and work on it till the backup system is running properly again. That's at our network operations centers. We monitor backups. And then we deployed the laptop backup solution across their laptops they had, so that if anything like this happened again, those users that have critical data on their laptops that's not backed up to the server would have a copy of that data also and be able to recover it. Some of the additional things you can do is maybe move your stuff to the cloud. If you've got a data center now or a server room that you call your data center in your own building, you may not have the ability to keep that current. Maybe your hardware, you put it all in several years ago and now it's time to do a hardware refresh. Maybe you don't have proper power or all you have is a battery backup that'll keep your systems up and running just for what we call a shutdown and not be able to actually run without power. You may not have a generator. You may not have proper air conditioning, cooling in the systems, or proper fire suppression. In some regulated industries, that's one of the things they look at now is the physical security of the devices. And in some cases, you may not want to go through the trouble of putting those systems in place. You may want to look at moving things off to someone else's data center or cloud environment so that you can provide those pieces or meet compliance without having to build that out yourself. Our cloud services provide fully managed virtual servers. They're located in the United States. We also, as part of our service, provide backup and disaster recovery. Maybe you're running an older version of Exchange and it's time to go through a migration to a new version of Exchange. We offer hosted Exchange solutions that you may want to look at instead of building out your own new Exchange environment. And then we also offer cloud business continuity, where if your data is located in one of our data centers and maybe something takes that whole data center out for some reason, a natural disaster or something, your data can be replicated over to one of our other data centers so that it can be spun up and your systems could still run there. Some of the benefits of moving things to the cloud are 24/7 monitoring and support. Someone else at a data center is going to be looking at your systems all the time. They're going to provide 24/7 physical security so that nobody can just walk into your systems or break into your building and take servers or destroy them. It's going to give you remote access, so maybe you don't have to worry about connectivity back to a corporate office. Everybody on all your remote offices or mobile users would be able to connect into it no matter where they're located at. It's also going to give you a predictable monthly cost. It's going to change it from CapEx to OpEx, which can help in some scenarios. And it also gives you the ability to scale up or down. If you're growing quickly, instead of having to go purchase physical hardware and systems on your own, keep expanding, you just expand inside our cloud as you need to. Or if you happen to have to downsize, maybe you had to shut a branch down or something and you don't need as many servers or as much processing power as you had before, we're able to scale down also with you. Here's a good story about migrating to the cloud. We had a bank that had a corporate office located in a really nice old architectural part of their city, but it had power problems all the time. They had 6 branches that were connected to the corporate office, and those 6 branches did all of their internet connectivity and their data connectivity back to that corporate office. One day the corporate office lost power due to the power issues in the building itself, and they ended up being down for several days. This took all 6 of their branches down at the same time because they had no connectivity to the corporate office, the server room at the corporate office. They lost internet connectivity because those branches were going through the corporate office for all these pieces. It also put them into jeopardy for banking compliance regulations because they have to be up and running in a certain amount of time as part of their business continuity plan. After we got them up and running, we worked with them, did a review of their current environment, and determined that we could move their stuff to our cloud and data centers. What we did was set up their systems in our cloud environment. We took away the issue of having to have everything go back to their corporate office. So now if that power went out or they had issues in that old building with power, the 6 branches could stay up and running independently of the corporate offices. One of the other pieces that helped eliminate was they had been trying to figure out a way to make one of their remote offices a disaster recovery site. So they had been budgeting to build a second server room and provide secondary systems to be able to recover to if something did happen to the main office. This eliminated that need completely and saved them the money of deploying a secondary site and building all that out and purchasing all that hardware to provide that. And with moving all their systems to the cloud, they still meet their compliance requirements in their industry. So we want to point out just all coverage can help. If you need help with these areas or concerns or have questions on it, all coverage uses a 3-step process. We help plan and provide that plan for you. We can help build your security plan. We can make sure it covers things like the influx now of mobile devices, and maybe you want to bring your own device policies, virus and malware protection, data security, vulnerability management. We'll help you build a plan that includes and covers those areas. Then once you have your plan in place, or as you're putting your plan in place, we're able to help you secure your environment to meet what you have put into your policies. We can put in the right safeguards, the email protection, the endpoint protection we discussed. We can provide network monitoring, 24/7 response and help desk services. We can do the patch management and also the vulnerability management for you. And then we can also do the protection of your data, whether it's using one of our backup and recovery options for physical or virtual servers, or for workstations or laptops, or even moving stuff into the cloud to help meet physical requirements or not have to continue building and deploying your own systems in-house. We can provide all 3 of these services to you and help you secure and maintain your network and data. What are some steps you can take now? People always want to know, what can I just do now to make sure I'm more secure? So around the security management piece, one of the things to make sure is that you have a centralized managed endpoint security. That's your antivirus and your malware prevention. You want to make sure that you have a way to manage that so that individual users can't uninstall it or turn it off just because they think it slows their systems down or they don't like that brand. You want to be able to enforce that across your whole network and have a way to manage it and make sure everybody has it and it's up to date. Automated patch management is another one. You don't want to run around and have all your systems set to just auto patch. You need to have a system, centralized system that manages and monitors that so that you know if a system's not getting patches for some reason. You can go out and correct that and deploy them. And then create and enforce your policies. One of the big important things is to start creating documented policies, not verbal policies about what users are supposed to do or what they're allowed to do on your network. You need to actually create written policies and then enforce those policies once you've got them created. Data access and protection. Make sure you understand where your critical data is. Understand if you're saving customer data that's critical to your business. Is it all in the file server, or is it all in your CRM application database? Make sure that if you know if anybody's saving stuff to their desktops or their laptops that could be critical data that you need to continue to run your business. Understand where that data resides. Once you understand where it is, make sure it's part of your backup and recovery process. We've seen a lot of times where people will back up the file server and it's backed up every night, never misses a backup, but the data they actually needed wasn't on the file server, it was on someone's individual system. Make sure you have copies off-site. We've had a couple of clients who had the disaster happen and they did not take backup copies off-site. The technology today, the solutions we offer allow you to easily get that off-site, but make sure you have a copy of your data off-site. Make sure you secure the perimeter of your network. Make sure if you've got firewalls already in place, have them configured as tightened down as much as they can be. Make sure that you enable any extra services that are available on your firewall. They can provide things like gateway antivirus, gateway anti-spyware, pieces like that. Some of them can provide content filtering, so that the more of those pieces you can configure and set up, the more your perimeter of your network will be secured. If you allow remote access into your applications, make sure it's a secure method that you're doing that remote access with. That's one of the ways that breaches happen is through secure access methods or through remote access methods that aren't secured properly. So that's another piece that if you're allowing remote access into your network, make sure you're doing it in a secure way and method. Make sure you educate your users. So if you create policies and procedures, make that part of an annual routine where they have to read through the latest policy and update it. Make it be part of your HR department as new hires that they have to read the policies and procedures. If you make changes to the policies and procedures, you need to make sure you communicate that out to your users. And then even if you're not in a regulated industry, consider using web content filtering to help protect users. It'll keep them from going to places they shouldn't go and only on corporate work websites and things like that. If you don't have the resources in-house to do these different pieces, reach out to someone like All Covered, consider outsourcing it. It's better to spend a little money to get it all protected and properly deployed than to not do it at all. So some of you saw at the beginning that there would be a special offer at the end of the presentation. We are offering a complimentary network and security analysis, it's a $1,000 value. What this will do is it will allow us to come in, take a look at your network. It will look at your users, look at the systems, look at the assets that are in place, and it'll give us a high-level report of the risks that it finds or systems that it finds that may not be secure. It can detect things like old systems, maybe operating systems that are out of date. Gives us a great look at your users and helps us identify maybe you've got users still on your network that you thought you'd removed when they left the company months ago or maybe even years ago in some cases. It helps us identify all that in a nice, clean, concise report. If you're interested in doing this, you want to contact your local sales rep that you work with or call our 800 number, 866-446-1133, and we'll get you to the right person to provide a form for you. If you are interested, you will need to sign the form and turn it in to your sales rep. We will set up a day for an engineer to come on site, run a scan of your network. Then our solutions architects and your sales rep will put together the executive report. There's a sample here that you'll be able to reach and look at the sample report of what you'll get when we do this. So if you're interested in doing this, make sure you let your salespeople know, and we'll get you signed up and we'll provide this for you. Any questions? I'd like to hear any questions, anything you got, questions about the complimentary assessment or anything you heard during the presentation. Hang on one minute. We're looking at we're bringing up the question. So one of the questions we have is, this is a suite of services that we offer, and that you can pick and choose the services that you want to use out of it. That is the case, Some of the services are included in our base packages of support we provide. Some of them are add-on features, so you can definitely tailor it to your needs for your company. One of the next questions is, regards to Gmail, and will any of the various email protections work with Gmail? We get our people in the back end to get the person who asked this question's name. That's one we'll have to research and get back to you on. Someone asked, are your services built around Windows desktop and servers, or do any of the services include Mac as well? We do provide support and managed services around the Mac system. They do function differently, so some of the services that are available on Windows PCs and servers would work differently in a Mac environment. Some of the services do require pieces of software that may need to get installed that do require a Windows system for that software to go on. That's one of those we would work with you and your sales rep to understand your environment and see which of the services would pertain to you. Got a question about the legal industry. They're concerned about security, and the biggest challenge has been to allow someone else to work on their network. So that would be a question I guess we'd need to work with you on that one to see. All covered will do a contract. We'll sign non-disclosure agreements, anything that the customer needs in place in order to allow us to work on their network. That's part of our process of doing managed services for a company, is to have the contracts and pieces in place that the customer needs to allow us access to their network. So someone asked, is there breach detection software? There are pieces of software out there that will help detect certain types of breaches. There are breaches that in many cases don't get discovered until someone outside the environment notifies the customer. That's how some of the big, like Home Depot breaches and things like that get discovered, is they actually the credit card companies will start getting calls about credit card charges on their card, somebody's card, and they'll see a trend of, hey, these all were used at ABC company in the last 2 weeks. So then that's what triggers, oops, maybe ABC company has a breach. So it depends on the environment, the systems you have in place, and the tools you're willing to put in place as to whether or not you can detect all breaches. There's no magic tool out there that will detect everything. Someone asked if we provide HIPAA gap assessment or consulting services. That is a piece All Covered can provide. If you're in the healthcare industry, we can provide HIPAA risk assessments, HIPAA gap assessments, even HIPAA training services and policy creation and consulting. So if you're interested in anything around the healthcare and the HIPAA space, let your sales rep know, and we can reach out to you and have a discussion with you about that. Someone asked about, can we deal, they have a hosted facility and hosted web services, can we scan for issues? So our vulnerability scanning service and our project-based vulnerability scans and pen testing can scan systems whether they're in your facility or someone else's facility. Part of the process is just making sure we have permission to do the scans. If it's in someone else's data center, we have to have their permission to scan that information as well. So we can do that wherever they're located. Someone else has asked if we do PCI compliance scans. All Covered itself does not do PCI compliance scans for certification. We work with some vendors that provide that, and if that's something you need in your company, we can work with your sales rep to find a solution to provide that service for you. I don't see any more questions. Gene, on the back end, do you have any more questions that need to be answered? All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Once again, if you're interested in the complementary network and security analysis, let your local sales rep know or call our 800 number. I'll leave it up here for a few more minutes. And if you need any other types of services from us, once again, ask your local rep or call the 800 number, and we'll be glad to have a call with you and go through what your needs and requirements are. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.